Hello everybody, welcome back to Flames Pyro Art for Beginners and Beyond. Today we're going to have a little look at bird feathers together and see how we can create white bird feathers. Now, I'm working on an eagle at the moment, an American eagle. And American eagles have a white feathered head and then a brown body. So with the white feathers we have to work a bit more differently, don't we? We can't, shade them up dark like we would the normal feathers of a bird. So what I've discovered from my travels so far, if you bear with me 1 second, is the best pen to use. This is on an 8-inch by 12-inch board, so it's still quite a large size, but you can see the size of the bird's head isn't that great. So ideally you're going to be looking to try and get yourself a pen that is small. I'm using the rounded micro skew for my bird. Sorry, I'm just trying to get the photo of it up while we're chatting away here. Hopefully you can see the bird in the display. Let me just get it up on camera once it decides to play ball. Okay, right, so obviously there's a few things to take into account, isn't there, with doing any bird of prey when it's front facing you like this. One of the big things is the beak. How do we get that beak to like sit forward, from the rest of the bird? That is the question. And if we look at your bird's beak on the photo you're doing, you will see down one of the two sides it will be darker, because the light will be coming in from one way or the other. Even if the light is coming in just off center, left or right, it will make a difference. So on my bird here, this side is my lighter side, so the light's coming in from this way, and this side is my darker side of the beak. So this side has to be shaded as if there's no or less light getting to it, and it'll then add some more depth and pop to the beak. You can use the likes of like flat round shaders for doing this, but because I've been trying to work intricately on this piece, I'm going to try and do the whole piece with a micro rounded skew. So I'm just going to take my time and experiment with the piece. But basically, down at the bottom, the further down you go, the darker your shading will go. And as you do that, you gradually come lighter and lighter and lighter until you hit that apex down the middle, where there's like a flash of light maybe comes down here somewhere in the middle. Then you stop, and then this side has its shading at the back to bring the pop of it forward, and we go on from there. Now with feathers, these were a little different, because how do we show white feathers? That is the question, and the only solution is to not show the feather as such, but show the shading underneath and around the feather, if that makes sense. So let's say, for example, on this side of the bird I've been working on here, and this is just coming off from the facial area. So this sort of area here is my break point for the face to start then dipping away, but I'll explain that at a later date. So what I've been looking to try and do with a micro skew is get underneath the feather and try and shade up below it. And this is a time consuming project, so for anybody who hasn't got the greatest of patience, this may not be the ideal subject matter for you, because to do birds' feathers is really intricate and takes a bit of time to do, but if you do them well, then they will look absolutely spectacular, we hope, as we finish. I'm a long way from the finish line here, but if you just watch for a few minutes, hopefully it'll give you a few ideas and a few pointers of where to start with your own feathers of your bird. So these aren't actually the feathers, these are the shadows that are being cast as one feather sits on top of another, because with plumage it's the same as a dog, a bear, a wolf, or whatever. It's not just one layer of feathers. In plumage there's a lot of feathers involved. So under the chin, for example, when I looked at the photo and I thought, oh my god, there's so much light feathers, so many light feathers under there. How am I going to show these really thin feathers? And it is with this micro skew, it can do the very finest of lines. If you haven't got one of these pens in your arsenal yet, then I would definitely look at investing in a micro skew. There's so many things you can do with them, and they come in handy so often. Most pen manufacturers, most machine manufacturers will offer some form of micro skew. I'm wearing the glove as well so I don't rub off all my transfer lines, hopefully beneath. That's why I've just got a piece of paper and a glove on. I'm trying to save as much graphite as possible so I don't have to redraw it all. So remember, the darker the shading, if we add little patches where we go much darker, that will add depth to the plumage then. So we add different tones between the feathers, So at the bottom they'll be darker, and then obviously lighter and lighter as they work up. So you can set them at different depths. So just like when you do a white dog, you know, it's all to do with the shadow, isn't it, of the fur. It's pretty much the same with a white bird. I mean, if you want to go into really fine detail, then, you know, you're talking a lot of work to get exactly the plumage, you know, every tiny little bit of feather here and there, the really skinny ones and everything, you know. Do you really want to or need to go into that level of detail? I'm not sure. Maybe one day. We've got a nice wet Sunday today. Yesterday was a nice day, and I managed to actually get my woodworking shop damp boarded just in the nick of time. So as we can see here is a good example. We're going to have this feather sat on top of this one. And ideally the shading would need to come this way, wouldn't it? Because feathers have two sides to them. This is if you're going into really, really fine detail. Because it would shade that way, and it would also shade that way, wouldn't it? And it would leave its bit in the middle. That wasn't the greatest example then, was it really, of a feather? But you get the gist. Now I'm just going to spend 3 or 4 weeks, or whatever, however long it takes, to do this bird. The last one I did a hawk, and I just didn't want to stop doing it. I fell that much in love with doing the detail as I got deeper and deeper into it and into the zone. I just didn't want to stop. I was really gutted when I came to a finish. But to get there, you have to put the hours in. To get into the zone is spending hours and hours staring at your piece, working slowly and carefully on your piece of art, and all of a sudden the zone comes along, it creeps up on you, and next thing you know, you're so engrossed into the piece of art that you're doing, you've lost yourself for 5 or 6 hours, and all of a sudden your husband or your wife, your boyfriend or girlfriend, your mum or your dad shouts, "Tea's ready," and you say, "Hey, it was only 11 o'clock when I started this," and before you know it, 6 hours have gone by. That's the zone. And you still don't want to stop. Even at that, you don't want to walk away, but then there will become a point, should I add as a disclaimer to the zone, there is a point where you know to stop. Once you start getting sloppy with the work and you have literally burnt yourself out for the day, then stop. It can be quite hard to want to come out of the zone and keep going, but then you can start making a mess. After 7-8 hours of staring at a piece. That might sound a bit crazy to some of you, 7 or 8 hours. I get the whole piece done in that time. In 7 or 8 hours I won't have even finished the eyes, probably. That's with using this method, what I call the burn low and slow method. All it is we turn our burners down, turn them to a nice low medium heat that we are fully in control of at all times. The heat never gets away from us, and we can then gradually and very slowly and carefully build our picture. And by using the burn low and slow method, any level of artist can create amazing works of art if you just have the patience to keep that heat down and be willing to spend, a week or two, however long, depending on the size of the picture and the detail. All comes down to patience and passion. If you have a passion for the subject, then a week or two is nothing to you. A week or two of burning one image. I think in my early days I would have been shocked at that. Why, it takes you a couple of weeks to do it. Now I could quite happily sit for a month, 2 months. It wouldn't bother me. Time is irrelevant really with art. As you'll see when you look at your bird on its face, you will see where the break point starts to come in. So you've got the eye and you've got some feather coming off, and then here is where it starts to break away and go off round to the side of the head. So then we have to start shading the sides up to give that depth perception, but we must do it slowly. Especially when you're not a bird expert, because I'm no bird expert. I'm just sharing with you some of the things I've been learning this last week on the few hours here and there that I've spent with my American eagle. You can also use a medium space shader, but you just can't get as many fine feathers in, if you like, as what you can with the micro skew. these are the ideal pen for plumage. Another good pen tip for doing bird feathers would be the Peter Child spear tip. Now that is super fine, isn't it? I'll show you that now. I've got one here. Here we go. See how super fine the Peter Child is. It's not as thin as my micro skew. I'd say it's double the size in width, but it's still very small. So the Peter Child machine could be another great machine to create birds with. If you bear with me a second, I'll have to spin this board a bit because this area here is actually a part of the beak. Got funny beaks. They've got the mouth, and then underneath they've got a chin, bit of beak. So there's the mouth, and then it has this other bit that comes off as well, which is a new one to me. But I noticed it on the picture and thought that's a new one. I've never seen a bird with like a chin before, or a double-barreled mouth beak thing. And there is some feathers that lie over some of it. This is why I needed this micro skew. So this second beak part I can darken up there and put a hard line in. Then carry on my feathers over the top and do my hard line again. But I don't want it to touch the beak. So let's go back to the beak again. So we want this beak to sit forward, quite a bit forward as well. And so remember, if we're sitting something forward, everything else has to be pushed back. It doesn't mean you have to burn every single little bit of the thing that is being pushed back, but there are certain areas you do have to burn, i.e. under the beak itself. Is shaded. these I'm just doing light angled strokes. Move the board round so you get your feather line as you want it. And then if I turn the board the other way, hopefully you can still see through this. It's not easy to try and set a camera up for this. Don't know if you can hear that rain on the microphone. So all this area under the chin has to be darkened, but then we also want to have the detail of the layering. So when you're doing like feathers on top of feathers, go darker than what you are when you're just shading in this feathers under the beak, so you can give it that pop. Just go darker on the where the feather sits on top of the other one. And then you can do your lighter stroke coming off it. And just go into as much detail as you want. I was meant to do a full tutorial series on this eagle, and I do apologise. As some of you will know, I recently got evicted from the house I've been living in for 10 years, and my art studio was obviously in that house, and I had to make a new studio, and it's taken me a good 6-7 weeks to finally get some sort of studio that I feel I can work in. At first I'd set myself up 2 art studios, one for my painting and one for my pyrography, and I found it wasn't ideal, because when I was painting, because the pyrography kit wasn't next to me as well, I wasn't doing any pyrography, and pyrography is my first love above all other art forms. It's an art form you can get yourself lost in, and it's amazing what you can create into a piece of wood. And remember, it's not onto a piece of wood, it's into, because as we're putting the heat down onto the surface with our pen, that heat is getting soaked up deeper and deeper down into the wood, and I can promise you that when I finished, to get this off you would need to sand down quite a bit with a, you know, an electronic sander, a mouse sander. It'd take you quite a while to get past the depth of the heat that I've put in the shading, as I let that absorb into the wood. That's why you'll see me going over the same area over and over. That's because I'm pushing the heat into it, and that is what creates the depth. So you will hear me in other videos going on about layering, and it's the same with all art forms, same with pencil artists, paint artists. They all use a technique called layering. You never get to your final finish straight away, you know, there's many layers built up until you get to your top coat. So yes, in pyrography we employ layering as well. Take you one other little thing I can think of. Let's see, before we finish. Say this feather here, I've put it on a curl, this one, as it's going to start dropping off. So what we can do is very gently, if we just shade the tip of it, it then gives it the illusion that it's dropping off. Then as you've shaded, you need to make your adjustment for the feather that's lying underneath it. And basically you can put down as many feathers as you want. That is the cool thing with doing birds. You know, you're never going to stick to an image. You know, you get your image up, you're never going to stick to it to the letter. So once you get a start and a feel for it, just go with your own imagination, you know. Put your own coat of feathers down on a bird. And you'll find you will be able to do it. Just don't rush, just take your time and enjoy the process. To me, because I enjoy what I'm doing so much, it doesn't matter how long it takes, because I'm enjoying myself. Usually I'll get that enthralled in a piece of art that I'm lost when it ends. It's like watching your favourite box set on Netflix or Prime or whatever other Discovery Plus. Got to name that one. That's one of my favourites. but it's like watching your favourite box set. And then when it's finished, you're lost. And you have to find a new one. And then it starts again. And it's the same with art. So get the time factor completely out of your mind. And just enjoy your art. And you will build yourself a lovely coated, I was going to say fluffy, but not if they are fluffy, are they, birds? You'll find yourself with a lovely feathery bird come the end of it. Okay, so I hope some of my ramblings today have helped and maybe given you a few pointers with your own portraits that you're working on, maybe of birds, or maybe you're thinking of tackling an eagle or a hawk or whatever, because they are great pieces for pyrography. You know, they really suit it well. So hopefully a few of the things I've spoke about today has helped. Okay, so I shall end the video there. Thank you if you've watched it all the way to the end. If you have, leave me a like or a comment to let me know that you're with me. And I shall see you all again soon. So happy pyroing and take care, everybody. Bye for now.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces.